Gray calls Nolan to warn him that Nick Armstrong is headed to the hospital, claiming Nolan tried to kill him and that he's working for Darien. Nolan insists that Armstrong is the dirty cop, the one who killed Aaron Cole. Gray says he needs to come inside to look around, but Nolan pushes back, telling him to get a warrant. Nolan also says he'll call a lawyer. Nolan reaches out to Wesley, telling him he needs his help because Armstrong has framed him. As Wesley stands up, he accidentally steps on a pregnancy test. While Nolan keeps talking about his case, Wesley reminds him to focus. His job right now is to keep Nolan out of prison. At the hospital, Armstrong is still claiming Nolan tried to kill him and says there's incriminating evidence at Nolan's house. Meanwhile, Harper calls Nolan to say cops are at her front door. He explains Armstrong set him up. She tells him she's looking forward to yelling at him once this is all over. Lopez secures a search warrant but tells Wesley to pass a message to Nolan. She's rooting for him. Soon after, the police show up at Nolan's door and Gray places him in handcuffs. At the station, Wesley tells Nolan he's technically not under arrest but warns him that if convicted, he could be facing 25 years. He stresses that Nolan has to stay quiet and let him handle everything. Wesley points out that Nolan's situation could be worse. If he were black, the cops likely would have kicked the door in. He repeats that Nolan has to follow his lead exactly. Meanwhile, Harper is with West. He tells her that Armstrong accused her of taking money from the Darien family in exchange for policing. Harper fires back, saying it's false. Armstrong is the real dirty cop, and he's trying to take both her and Nolan down. She even shows West a video proving Armstrong's corruption. West asks why she never brought her suspicions to him, and Harper explains that at the time, she didn't feel it was her place to accuse another officer without solid evidence. West loses his temper, yelling that it was her job, not hers. He warns her that investigators will dig through her entire life, and if they find anything, she won't be a cop anymore. Jackson questions Armstrong, who says he understands. It must be tough for everyone to realize what kind of cop Nolan really is. But once Jackson leaves the room, Armstrong's expression shows he's not pleased. Back at Nolan's house, Chen searches around and notices white powder on the floor. It leads her out to the balcony and down to the lawn, where she spots a garbage bag. The problem is, since it's off the property, they can't use it as evidence. Meanwhile, Wesley and Nolan sit in front of West. West reads Nolan his rights before questioning him. Nolan signs the form and promises to answer truthfully and completely. Wesley tries to stop him, but Nolan insists. Nolan explains that he left Armstrong's place after Armstrong claimed he had planted incriminating evidence at Nolan's home. Nolan says the evidence is in the heater, and sure enough, the search team finds it there. West then orders them to check Armstrong's place and pull the surveillance footage of his meeting with Rosalind Darien. Bradford hesitates to bring Chen along, but eventually agrees. Gray meets with Nolan and comes up with a plan. Nolan will wear a wire and go undercover to reach Rubin, which could also expose Armstrong. Chen and Bradford head to see Rosalind. She immediately tries to mess with Chen, but Bradford cuts her off, warning her to stop playing game. Rosalind smirks and says Armstrong has survived this long because he has backup plans for his backup plan. And whatever they've uncovered so far, there's still more. Nolan gets wired up and goes undercover. As soon as he leaves the station, he sets up a meeting. He gets a blocked call with instructions. A black SUV pulls up, and the men inside order him to strip. They hand him new clothes, making it clear they don't trust him, and then put a hood over his head. Meanwhile, Lopez calls Gray with new intel. Armstrong's phone GPS shows he was at Nolan's house the day before for over an hour. She's also tracked him to the cemetery, where he stayed for about 30 minutes afterward. While checking around his wife's grave, Lopez calls Gray again with a discovery. She's found something. From her prison cell, Rosalind manages to get hold of a phone and calls Armstrong's hospital room. She tells him he's made a complete mess of things and that the frame job on Nolan won't hold up. She also reveals that she's leaked information about him, warning him to enjoy his time in prison. Not long after, Armstrong escapes from the hospital. At the same time, Nolan disappears, with the police losing his tail when the convoy passes through a tunnel. Nolan is eventually dropped off in a parking lot where both Rubin and Armstrong are waiting. Nolan seizes a chance to escape, weaving between parked cars. He grabs a gun and manages to fight back. Armstrong ends up shot dead, and Nolan turns his weapon on Rubin. He orders Ruben to call 911 on his cell phone and then toss it to the ground. Later, Gray tells Nolan he still has his badge, but Harper admits she feels like she failed. Gray says he's given both of them far too much slack, and now things are changing. They'll each receive letters of reprimand in their files. On top of that, Nolan will be held back in the program for another month and must pass a review board before advancing. A reprimand is a serious blow for a rookie. It means Nolan won't qualify for any specialized training. Nolan takes it in stride, saying he'll head home, get some sleep, and try to earn back what he lost in the morning. Meanwhile, Lopez gets surprising news. She's been promoted to detective. When Nolan finally returns home, he's stunned by the wreckage left behind. He pours himself a drink, but the phone rings. On the other end is Rosalind. She tells him she underestimated him. He actually won. She warns that his call to have her phone confiscated will be worth it, just for the chance to hear his voice one last time. What did you think of this episode? Let me know in the comments below.